Captain Hyunwoo Park rubbed his tired eyes as his ship docked at the Galactic Medical Hub. The journey through the asteroid field had been rough, and his vessel needed repairs. But first, station protocol required all visitors to complete a medical check. He stepped off his ship into the massive station, where hundreds of alien species walked past him. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like they were made of pure light. A blue-skinned receptionist with 4 arms checked him in. She handed him a small device that would translate languages. Hyunwoo followed the signs to the medical wing, walking through corridors that smelled like cleaning chemicals and something he could not identify. The walls were white and smooth, covered with screens showing patient information in languages he did not understand. The waiting room was full. A creature that looked like a walking tree sat in one corner. Next to it, something that resembled a floating jellyfish bobbed up and down. Hyunwoo found a seat and waited. His name was called after 20 minutes, but it sounded strange when the alien nurse said it. He stood and followed her down another hallway. The examination room was cold. Medical equipment lined the walls, most of it unfamiliar to Hyunwoo. In the center stood a tall being with gray skin and 6 fingers on each hand. Its eyes were large and yellow, and it wore a white coat marked with symbols that probably meant doctor. The creature looked at a data pad and then at Hyunwoo with what seemed like disappointment. "You are the human," the doctor said through the translator. His voice sounded dry and unimpressed. "I am Dr. Vexithar. I have treated over 300 species in my career. Please sit on the examination platform." Hyunwoo climbed onto the platform. It adjusted to his height automatically. Dr. Vexthar picked up a scanning device and ran it over Hyunwoo's body. The device beeped and hummed, displaying information on a nearby screen. The doctor's eyes moved across the data, and his expression changed from neutral to amused. "Fascinating," Dr. Vexthar said, but his tone suggested he meant the opposite. "Your species has only one heart, just one. Most intelligent species have at least 2 or 3 backup systems. What happens if this single heart fails?" "We die," Hyunwoo said simply. The doctor made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "How primitive. And your skeletal structure is based on calcium. Calcium, it breaks so easily. Look at this bone density reading." On most civilized worlds, this would be considered fragile. 2 nurses who were nearby glanced at the screen and whispered to each other. Hyunwoo heard one of them say something that the translator converted to weak structure. He felt his jaw tighten but said nothing. Dr. Vexthar continued scanning. "Your oxygen processing system is inefficient. You breathe in, hold it in these small lungs and breathe out. Such waste. And the gravity you evolved in, only 1 standard unit? My homeworld has 3 times that. No wonder your muscles are so underdeveloped." "We manage just fine," Hyunwoo said, keeping his voice calm. "Manage, yes, but barely." The doctor pulled up more data. "Your cellular regeneration is slow. A wound that would heal in 1 day for a Quilarian takes you a week. Your immune system is confused and attacks your own body sometimes. You have allergies to simple proteins. Your species even damages itself with its own star's radiation. You require protective layers just to stand in sunlight for extended periods." The nurses were no longer trying to hide their amusement. One of them, a small creature covered in purple fur, smiled openly. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. He had dealt with prejudice before. Some species looked at humans and saw only newcomers to the galactic stage, young and inexperienced. "Weak and soft, is the examination finished?" Hyunwoo asked. "Almost. I need to take a blood sample." Dr. Vexthar pulled out a device that looked like a small gun. "This will extract a sample for analysis. It should not hurt too much, even for a human." The device pressed against Hyunwoo's arm and made a soft clicking sound. It extracted a small amount of blood into a vial. Dr. Vexthar placed the vial into an analyzer and waited for it to process. While they waited, he continued talking. "Human biology is remarkable in its simplicity," the doctor said. "Simple and vulnerable. Your planet must be very gentle to have produced such delicate creatures. A paradise world, I assume? Stable climate, few predators, abundant resources?" "Not exactly," Hyunwoo replied. "No? Well, regardless, you should be careful out here in space. The galaxy can be dangerous for fragile species. Stick to safe routes and well-protected stations. Avoid any situations that might stress your limited biological systems." Hyunwoo wanted to argue, to defend his species and his planet. But what would be the point? This doctor had already made up his mind. The data said humans were weak, and the data did not lie. Numbers and measurements showed that human bodies were less efficient, less durable, and less impressive than most other spacefaring species. The analyzer beeped. Dr. Vexthar looked at the results and nodded. As expected. Simple blood chemistry, basic immune markers, nothing unusual. You are cleared for travel, Captain Park. Try not to get hurt out there. Your medical bills would be expensive with such a fragile constitution. The nurses giggled again. Yenwu slid off the examination platform and headed toward the door. He would get his ship repaired and leave this station as quickly as possible. Behind him he heard Dr. Vexthar talking to the nurses. Poor things, these humans, the doctor said. They venture into space with bodies designed for nothing more challenging than picking fruit from trees. It is a wonder they survived long enough to develop space travel at all. Hyunwoo left the medical wing and walked back through the station corridors. Other humans worked here too. He passed Nari Choi, a nurse in the pediatric wing. She smiled and waved at him. Down another corridor he saw Do-Hyun Kim in a security uniform, checking identification badges at a checkpoint. Humans were slowly becoming part of the galactic community, taking jobs and building lives among the stars. But they were still seen as weak, still viewed as fragile newcomers who did not belong in the dangerous void of space. Hyunwoo wondered if that would ever change. Would other species ever see humans as equals? Or would they always be the delicate ones who needed protection and pity? He did not know the answer. What he did know was that humans had made it this far despite everything. They had left their planet, built ships, and joined the galactic community. If that made them weak, then weak was stronger than it looked. Hyunwoo reached his ship and began checking the repair schedule. It would take 2 days to fix the damage. 2 days on a station where doctors mocked him and nurses laughed at his biology. He sighed and settled in to wait. At least nothing else could go wrong during a simple medical examination and repair stop. What could possibly happen on a medical station? The explosion happened during the night cycle. Hyunwoo was in his ship reviewing navigation charts when the entire station shook. Alarms began screaming through the corridors. Red emergency lights flashed on and off. His communication panel lit up with automated warnings in multiple languages. Containment breach in research wing. All personnel evacuate to safe zones. Toxic exposure risk. Seek medical attention immediately. Hyunwoo grabbed his jacket and ran out of his ship. The docking bay was filled with smoke. Not the gray smoke from fire, but something yellow and thick that smelled like chemicals and rotting metal. Other beings were running past him, some coughing badly, others already collapsing on the ground. He pulled his jacket over his nose and mouth. The smoke burned his eyes and made his throat feel scratchy, but he could still breathe. Around him, aliens were dropping like their legs had stopped working. A Quillarian merchant fell face first onto the floor, gasping for air. A small insect-like being curled into a ball and stopped moving. Hyunwoo ran toward the medical wing. If people were getting hurt, that was where they needed to go. The yellow smoke was everywhere now, filling the corridors like thick fog. His eyes watered and his throat burned more intensely, but his legs still worked. His lungs still pulled in air, even if it tasted terrible. The medical wing was chaos. Aliens lay on the floor on benches against walls. Some were unconscious. Others were coughing up strange colored fluids. The nurses were trying to help, but many of them were sick too. The purple-furred nurse who had laughed at Hyunwoo earlier was on her knees, vomiting into a container. Nari Choi ran past him carrying emergency breathing equipment. She stopped when she saw him. Her eyes were red and watering, but she was still standing and moving. "Hyunwoo, are you okay?" she asked through her medical mask. "I am fine. What happened?" "Chemical explosion in the research lab. The containment failed and it spread through the air system. It is killing everyone." She coughed hard but kept talking. "We need to get breathing masks on as many people as possible." "Tell me what to do." Nari handed him a stack of breathing masks. They ran through the corridors together, placing masks on aliens who were still conscious enough to use them. Hyunwoo's throat hurt and his chest felt tight, but he could keep working. Around him, trained medical staff were collapsing. Security officers who should have been strong were lying on the ground unable to move. In the main medical bay, Dr. Vexthar was leaning against a wall. His gray skin had turned a sickly green color. He was coughing violently, and strange fluid dripped from his mouth. 2 nurses were trying to help him into an isolation chamber with filtered air. The humans. Dr. Vexthar wheezed when he saw Hyunwoo and Nari. "Why are they still standing?" One of the nurses, barely conscious herself, shook her head. She had no answer. Hyunwoo helped move Dr. Vexthar into the isolation chamber. Through the clear walls, the doctor stared at him with confused yellow eyes. His six-fingered hands pressed against the glass as he watched Hyunwoo walk back out into the toxic air, without any special protection. Do-hyun Kim appeared from the security wing. His uniform was covered in yellow residue and his face was red and sweating. But like Hyunwoo and Nari, he was still on his feet and moving. "I sealed the contaminated sections," Do-hyun reported. "But the chemical is already in the air system. The station AI cannot identify what it is, so it cannot make an antidote." "How many species are affected?" Nari asked. "All of them. Every single species on this station is showing symptoms. Respiratory failure, cellular breakdown, organ damage, except for humans. You three are the only ones who are not dying." They looked at each other. Hyunwoo felt sick. His throat was raw and his eyes would not stop watering. But he was not collapsing. He was not coughing up his insides. His body hurt, but it still worked. "We need to help as many people as we can," Nari said. "Get them into isolation chambers or areas with filtered air. The antidote will take hours to develop, if they can develop one at all." For the next several hours, the three humans worked without stopping. They carried unconscious aliens to safety. They operated air filtration equipment that the sick staff could no longer manage. They distributed medicine and breathing aids. Hyunwoo's arms ached from carrying heavy beings. His lungs burned from breathing the contaminated air. But he did not stop. Around him, medical professionals with years of training were helpless. Security forces bred for strength and endurance were unable to stand. Scientists with advanced biology could not save themselves. But three humans from Earth kept working. In his isolation chamber, Dr. Vexthar watched them through the glass. His medical equipment was connected to his body, keeping him alive while his system fought the toxin. He could see the data on his screen. The chemical compound should have killed the humans in minutes. It attacked respiratory systems, broke down cellular walls, and destroyed organ tissue. It was lethal to every known species at this concentration, but the humans were not dead. They were not even unconscious. They looked uncomfortable and sick, yes, but they were walking around and saving others while the rest of the station lay dying. "This makes no sense," Dr. Vexthar whispered to himself. "They should be the first ones to die. The weakest species should fall first." Through his chamber window, he watched Hyunwoo lift a large alien male and carry him to a medical bed. The human's face was red and covered in sweat. His hands shook from effort, but he completed the task and immediately went to help someone else. The doctor pulled up the scans he had taken of Hyunwoo during the examination. One heart, calcium bones, inefficient lungs, simple immune system. Everything about human biology said they should be fragile. The data was clear. Humans were weak, so why were they the only ones still standing? Dr. Vexthar looked at his equipment. He needed to run more tests. Comprehensive tests. Something about human biology was not showing up in the standard scans. Something important that he had missed. Outside the chamber, Nari Choi sat down for a moment to rest. Her entire body hurt. Her throat felt like she had swallowed broken glass. Her eyes burned so badly she could barely see. But she was alive. She looked at Hyunwoo and Do-hyun, both showing the same symptoms. All three of them should be dead according to what the medical textbooks said about toxin exposure. But humans, it seemed, did not always follow the textbooks. Nari stood back up. There was still work to do. People needed help. She could rest when everyone was safe, or when she finally collapsed, whichever came first. 8 hours after the explosion, the station's emergency systems finally cleared most of the toxic chemical from the air. The yellow fog slowly disappeared, replaced by the clean recycled air the station normally circulated. Medical staff who had been in isolation chambers began emerging, weak but alive. The antidote had been developed and distributed, though it came too late for some. Hyunwoo sat in the medical wing's break room drinking water. His throat still hurt. His eyes were bloodshot and sensitive to light. His entire body ached like he had been in a fight, but he had not collapsed once during the entire crisis. Neither had Nari or Do-hyun. Dr. Vexthar entered the break room moving slowly. He looked terrible. His gray skin was now almost white and his movements were shaky. 2 medical assistants helped him sit down. He stared at Hyunwoo for a long moment before speaking. "Explain to me how you are alive," the doctor said. His voice was rough and quiet. "I do not know," Hyunwoo answered honestly. "I felt sick. I still feel sick. But I could keep moving. That chemical compound kills in minutes. It destroys lung tissue and breaks down cellular structures. Every species we know of cannot survive exposure without immediate treatment. But you walked through it for 8 hours. You, the nurse and the security officer. All humans. This should not be possible. Nari joined them, carrying her own cup of water. She sat down carefully, like her muscles had forgotten how to work properly. Maybe humans have some natural resistance, she suggested. To a chemical they have never encountered before? Dr. Vexithar shook his head. No. Immunity requires exposure and adaptation. Your species has never left your planet until recently. You cannot have immunity to galactic compounds. He paused, thinking, unless your planet itself created something similar. Earth has many dangerous chemicals, Hyunwoo said. Volcanoes release toxic gases. Plants produce poisons. Even the air was different millions of years ago. Dr. Vexthar pulled out his datapad with shaking hands. I need to run comprehensive tests. On all 3 of you. Full genetic workup, metabolic analysis, cellular examination, everything. There is something about human biology that my standard scans missed. You scanned me 2 days ago, Hyunwoo pointed out. You said humans were weak and fragile. The doctor's yellow eyes looked down. For a moment, he seemed embarrassed. Then he looked back up with determination. I was wrong. The data I collected was accurate but incomplete. I made assumptions based on surface readings. I compared your biology to other species without understanding the context. That was a mistake. A doctor should never mock what he does not fully understand. Do-hyun arrived, still wearing his security uniform covered in yellow stains. He dropped into a chair with a heavy sigh. The station director wants a report, he said. He wants to know why the humans survived when everyone else nearly died. The galactic media is already asking questions. We are asking the same questions, Nari said. Dr. Vexthar stood up slowly, supported by his assistants. He looked at each human in turn. I will need blood samples, tissue samples, and detailed medical histories from each of you. I will also need information about your planet. Everything. Climate data, atmospheric composition, common diseases, natural toxins, everything that might explain this resistance. You want to figure out what makes us different, Hyunwoo said. I want to figure out what I missed, and I want to make sure I never underestimate a species again. Dr. Vexthar looked tired and sick, but his voice was serious. What happened today should not have been possible. According to everything I know about biology and medicine, you 3 should be dead, but you are not. That means everything I thought I knew about human biology is wrong. Over the next several hours, the 3 humans underwent extensive testing. Dr. Vexthar worked despite his weakness, running scan after scan. Other doctors joined him, specialists from different fields. They took blood samples, tissue samples, and ran genetic analyses. They asked hundreds of questions about Earth and human history. Hyunwoo found himself describing Earth's environment in ways he never had before. The constant weather changes, the seasonal variations in temperature, the different climate zones from frozen poles to burning deserts, the volcanic activity and natural disasters, the millions of species of bacteria, viruses, and parasites that humans had evolved alongside. The alien doctors listened with growing interest. Some of them looked shocked. One elderly physician from a water-based species actually backed away when Hyunwoo described Earth's oxygen levels. Your atmospheric oxygen is 21%? The water-based doctor asked. That is highly corrosive. How do you not burn from the inside? Burn? Hyunwoo did not understand. It is just air. Oxygen at those levels is toxic to most species, Dr. Vexthar explained. We breathe it in much smaller amounts, carefully filtered. Your species breathes it constantly, directly, without any filtration. Your cells must have extraordinary protection against oxidative damage. Nari spoke up from her examination table. She had been describing human immune system responses to the doctors. They are surprised by how aggressive our immune systems are, she said to Hyunwoo. Apparently most species have gentle immune responses that carefully identify and remove threats. Human immune systems attack everything foreign with extreme force. Is that bad? Hyunwoo asked. It means your bodies are prepared for constant warfare, one of the alien doctors said. You treat everything unknown as a serious threat. Your immune system does not hesitate or analyze. It attacks immediately and overwhelmingly. This is the response of a species that has faced countless deadly pathogens. Do-hyun was in another examination room, but his voice carried through the medical wing. You are telling me that Earth's gravity is considered high? he was saying to his examiners. But it is normal for us. Normal for a death world, came the response. Most civilized planets have lower gravity. Your species developed in conditions that would crush some of our bones. Death world. The term kept coming up. Hyunwoo had heard it before but never understood what it meant. Now doctors were using it to describe Earth, his home, the planet where he grew up playing in parks and swimming in oceans. That Earth was a death world? Dr. Vexthar returned to Hyunwoo's examination room with his data pad. The doctor's hands were steadier now, though he still looked weak. His yellow eyes were bright with something that looked like excitement mixed with disbelief. The preliminary results are ready, Dr. Vexthar said, and I need to show you something. Something that will change how the entire galaxy views your species. Dr. Vexthar gathered all the human test subjects in the main conference room. The room was large enough to hold 50 beings, but today it held only Hyunwoo, Nari, Do-hyun, and about 20 alien medical professionals. Every doctor on the station who could walk wanted to hear the results. The large screen on the wall lit up with data. Charts, graphs, genetic sequences, and chemical formulas filled the display. Most of it meant nothing to Hyunwoo. He was a ship captain, not a doctor. But the expressions on the alien doctors' faces told him the data was important. Dr. Vexthar stood at the front of the room. He looked better now, though still tired. He had refused to rest until he completed the analysis. Now he was ready to share what he had found. 2 days ago, I examined Captain Park and declared his species weak and fragile. I was wrong. Not slightly wrong. Completely wrong. Dr. Vexthar's voice was steady and clear. The tests I ran were accurate, but I misunderstood what they meant. I saw single organs and assumed vulnerability. I saw simple systems and assumed primitive design. I failed to understand the context in which these systems evolved. He pressed a control, and the screen changed to show an image of Earth from space. The blue and white planet looked beautiful and peaceful. This is Earth. By galactic standards, it is classified as a death world, a planet so hostile that most species could not survive there without significant protection and support systems. Murmurs spread through the room. Several doctors looked shocked. One of them spoke up, but it looks stable. Blue zones indicate liquid water. White zones show atmospheric dynamics. Green zones suggest abundant life. Yes, Dr. Vexthar agreed. Earth supports abundant life. But that life had to become extremely resilient to survive there. Let me explain the conditions humans evolved in. The screen changed again, showing atmospheric data. Numbers and percentages appeared beside a breakdown of gases. Earth's atmosphere contains 21% oxygen. For comparison, most habitable planets have between 8 and 12%. Oxygen at such high concentrations is highly reactive. It causes oxidation, which damages cells and molecules. It is, by definition, a corrosive element. Dr. Vexthar pointed at Hyunwoo. Humans breathe this corrosive gas constantly directly into their lungs. Their cells are exposed to oxidative stress every moment of every day. To survive this, human cells have developed extraordinary defenses against oxidative damage. These same defenses protected them from the chemical compound that nearly killed the rest of us. Another chart appeared, showing comparative gravity readings. Earth's gravity is 1.0 standard units. Most civilized planets range from 0.6 to 0.8. Humans evolved in high gravity. Their bones are dense. Their muscles are powerful. What we see as weak is actually incredibly strong by the standards of most species. They simply appear weak because we compared them to species evolved for different environments. Nari raised her hand. She looked curious rather than offended by the analysis. What about our immune systems? You mentioned they were unusual. Dr. Vexthar nodded and brought up biological data showing immune system responses. Human immune systems are extraordinarily aggressive. When most species encounter a pathogen, their immune systems carefully identify it, determine the appropriate response, and target it specifically. Human immune systems attack immediately and overwhelmingly. They produce fevers that would damage the brains of most species. They generate inflammation that causes pain and discomfort. They mount massive responses to minor threats. That sounds inefficient, one of the alien doctors said. It would be inefficient on a gentle world, but Earth is not gentle. The planet contains millions of species of bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi. Many of them are deadly. Humans who developed careful, measured immune responses died. Only those with overwhelming, aggressive immune systems survive to pass on their genes. What seems like excessive response is actually necessary defense. The screen changed to show molecular structures. Complex chains of elements formed intricate patterns. But the most remarkable discovery involves human blood chemistry. We found that human blood contains trace elements and enzymes that actively break down toxic compounds. Their liver and kidneys can process an enormous variety of substances that would be lethal to other species. Dr. Vex's there looked directly at Hyunwoo. The chemical compound that contaminated our station is molecularly similar to several compounds found naturally on Earth. Volcanic gases, plant toxins, and industrial byproducts all share structural elements with the compound. When Captain Park was exposed, his body recognized the molecular patterns and began breaking them down. Not quickly enough to prevent all damage, but fast enough to keep him alive and functional. You are saying my body thought the poison was familiar? Hyunwoo asked. Your body has enzymes designed to process similar compounds. To a human liver, this alien toxin looked like just another chemical to be filtered and eliminated. Your species evolved to handle constant exposure to poisons. Do-Hyun spoke up from the back of the room. Is that why humans can drink alcohol? I heard most species cannot. Alcohol is a poison, Dr. Vexthar confirmed. A poison that humans voluntarily consume for recreational purposes. Your bodies break it down. Though it causes temporary impairment, most species would die from the same amount. You use poison as entertainment. Some of the alien doctors looked disturbed by this information. Others looked fascinated. One elderly physician stood up, her feathers ruffled with agitation. Are you telling us that Earth is so dangerous that its inhabitants evolved to handle poison as a normal part of life? Yes, Dr. Vexthar said simply. Earth has extreme weather patterns from frozen wastelands to scorching deserts. It has violent storms, floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and meteor impacts. It has millions of competing life forms, many of them deadly to each other. The planet experiences regular mass extinction events. Life on Earth does not just exist. It fights to survive every single day. The room was silent. Every alien doctor stared at the humans with new understanding. What they had seen as weakness was actually strength. What they had mocked as primitive was actually advanced. Humans were not fragile beings from a gentle world. They were hardened survivors from a planet that constantly tried to kill them. Dr. Vexthar brought up one final chart. It compared human biology to other species across multiple categories. In conclusion, humans possess several extraordinary traits. Extreme resistance to oxidative damage, high tolerance for toxins and poisons, aggressive immune responses, dense skeletal structure, powerful muscular system, and perhaps most remarkably, psychological resilience. They evolved on a world that never stopped challenging them, and that shaped not just their bodies but their minds. He turned off the screen and faced the audience. I was wrong about humans. I judged them by the standards of species from stable, peaceful worlds. I failed to recognize that survival on a death world requires different strengths. Humans are not weak. They are survivors, and we all owe them our lives. Without their resistance to the toxin, they could not have helped us. Many more would have died. The room erupted in discussion. Doctors talked excitedly about the implications. Some wanted to study Earth's environment directly. Others wanted to analyze human DNA further. A few were already planning research papers and presentations. Hyunwoo looked at Nari and Do-Hyun. They smiled at each other. For the first time since humans joined the galactic community, they were not being dismissed as weak newcomers. They were being recognized for what they truly were, the children of Earth, a world that had forged them into something unique and powerful. 6 months passed since the incident at the medical station. The galaxy had changed its view of humanity during those months. Dr. Vexisthar's research paper, titled simply Human Resilience, a Reassessment, became the most downloaded medical document in 3 sectors. Universities requested copies. Medical schools added it to their curriculum. News services across dozens of planets ran stories about the humans who survived what should have killed them. Hyunwoo stood in his captain's quarters, adjusting his dress uniform. Today he was giving a speech at the Galactic Medical Conference, the largest gathering of medical professionals from across known space. The invitation had surprised him. He was a ship captain, not a doctor or scientist, but the conference organizers wanted to hear from someone who had lived through the experience. His communication panel chimed. It was Nari calling from the station. Are you ready for your big speech? She asked. Her face appeared on the screen, smiling. I am nervous, Hyunwoo admitted. There will be thousands of beings watching. What if I say something wrong? Just tell them what happened. Tell them how it felt. They want to understand, not judge. Nari paused. Did you hear my news? They promoted me. I am now head of the toxicology department. That is wonderful. You deserve it. They said my experience during the crisis proved I understood toxic exposure better than anyone else on staff. Being human actually helped me get the position. Can you believe that? 6 months ago, being human was seen as a weakness. Things had indeed changed. Hyunwoo had noticed it in small ways at first. Aliens stopped looking at him with pity or dismissal. They started asking questions about Earth with genuine interest. Some even showed respect. The change had been gradual but unmistakable. He ended the call with Nari and made his way to the conference hall. The building was enormous, designed to accommodate beings of vastly different sizes and shapes. The main auditorium could hold 10,000 attendees. Today it was completely full. Backstage, Hyunwoo waited with other speakers. A tall insectoid being was reviewing notes, a floating energy being pulsed with what might have been nervousness. And there, sitting calmly in a chair designed for his 6-fingered hands, was Dr. Vexthar. The doctor stood when he saw Hyunwoo. They had stayed in contact over the past months, but this was their first meeting in person since the incident. Captain Park, Dr. Vexthar said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting that he had learned. It is good to see you again. They shook hands. Hyunwoo noticed the doctor looked healthier now. The gray skin had returned to its normal color and his movements were steady and strong. I am glad you will be here for my speech, Hyunwoo said. I plan to tell the story honestly, including the part where you called humans weak and primitive. Dr. Vexthar's expression shifted to something that might have been a smile. Please do. I deserve to be embarrassed. It was a valuable lesson in humility. Never judge based on incomplete data. Never mock what you do not understand. These are lessons every doctor should learn, and I learned them the hard way. A conference organizer approached them. It was time for Hyunwoo to go on stage. He took a deep breath and walked out into the lights. The auditorium was massive. Thousands of beings sat in seats, floated in designated areas, or occupied special environment chambers. Cameras recorded everything for broadcast across the galaxy. Hyunwoo stood at the podium and looked out at the audience. 6 months ago, a doctor told me I was weak, he began. His voice carried through the hall via translation devices. He said my species was fragile, primitive, and poorly designed. He said my body would fail easily. He was kind enough to wish me luck surviving in space. Then a few hours later, that same doctor nearly died while I kept working. Today I want to tell you why that happened. He spoke for 30 minutes. He described the examination and Dr. Vexthar's comments. He talked about the explosion and the toxic chemical. He explained how he, Nari, and Do-hyun stayed conscious while everyone else collapsed. He described the fear and confusion, not knowing why they could survive when others could not. Then he talked about Earth. He showed images of his home planet, beautiful oceans and green forests, towering mountains and vast deserts, active volcanoes and violent storms. He explained what it was like to grow up on a world that was constantly dangerous in subtle ways. We have bacteria that can kill us if we do not wash our food properly. We have plants that produce poison. We have weather that can freeze or burn us. We have insects that carry diseases. We have predators with sharp teeth and claws. We have disasters that destroy entire cities. Earth has tried to kill humans for millions of years. And we survived, not because we were strong in the ways you measure strength, but because we adapted in ways you did not recognize. The audience listened in complete silence. Hyunwoo could see beings of hundreds of different species, all focused on his words. Dr. Vexthar was not wrong about the data. My bones are less dense than some species. My heart is singular. My lungs are small. But he missed the context. He compared me to beings from stable worlds and found me lacking. What he did not see was that humans are optimized for survival on a death world. We handle poison because Earth is full of poison. We resist damage because Earth damages us constantly. We keep fighting because giving up means dying. Hyunwoo paused and looked toward where Dr. Vexthar sat in the front row. The doctor was watching intently. That doctor saved my life by taking those tests seriously. He could have dismissed the results. He could have assumed it was luck or equipment error. Instead, he investigated. He admitted he was wrong. He published his findings. And because of that, the galaxy now understands humans better. So I want to thank Dr. Vexthar publicly for having the courage to admit his mistake and the wisdom to learn from it. The audience applauded. Dr. Vexithar stood and bowed slightly, acknowledging the recognition. Hyunwoo continued. Humans are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest or the smartest. We do not have the best technology or the most advanced medicine. What we have is endurance. We have the ability to take damage and keep going. We have the ability to adapt to terrible conditions. We have the ability to face death and refuse to surrender. That is what Earth taught us, and that is what we bring to the galaxy. The applause when he finished was thunderous. Beings of all kinds stood and made gestures of respect according to their customs. Some whistled, others clicked, and some simply remained silent in a show of profound appreciation. Afterward, dozens of beings approached Hyunwoo with questions. Medical researchers wanted to study Earth's environment. University professors wanted to include human biology in their courses. Military leaders wanted to recruit human personnel for dangerous operations. Everyone, it seemed, wanted to understand these survivors from the death world. Dr. Vexthar found him in the crowd. That was an excellent speech, the doctor said. You made me look foolish, but fairly so. You made yourself look wise, Hyunwoo corrected. You admitted your mistake and learned from it. That takes more courage than being right the first time. They talked for a while about the future. Human medical personnel were being recruited across the galaxy now. Emergency response teams wanted humans because of their resistance to environmental hazards. Do-hyun had been hired to train alien security forces in survival techniques. Nari's toxicology department was studying samples from Earth to develop better antidotes and treatments. A young human woman approached them. She wore the uniform of a medical student. Excuse me, Captain Park. My name is Jiwon. I am studying xenobiology. Because of your story, my application to the Galactic Medical Academy was accepted. They said they need more human perspectives. I just wanted to thank you. Hyunwoo smiled. This was what the incident had accomplished. Not just scientific understanding, but opportunity. Humans were no longer seen as weak newcomers who needed protection. They were recognized as valuable contributors with unique strengths. Later that evening, Hyunwoo returned to his ship. He sat in the captain's chair and looked at the stars through the viewport. Somewhere out there was Earth, the death world that had created his species, the planet that had tested them for millions of years and forged them into survivors. He thought about Dr. Vexthar's words from 6 months ago. Weak, fragile, primitive. Those words had stung at the time, but they had also led to discovery. Sometimes being underestimated was an advantage. Sometimes appearing weak made others lower their guard. Hyunwoo smiled to himself. Humans would continue to explore the galaxy. They would continue to take jobs others found too dangerous. They would continue to survive in conditions that killed others. Not because they were superior, but because they were survivors. Earth had made sure of that. The death world had taught its children well. And now those children were teaching the galaxy what survival really meant.